At this time, then, I'd like to go to the open forum. The open forum is a portion of the meeting to address the City Council with items that are not part of the meeting agenda. The City Council may take action or reply at the time of this statement, or may give direction to staff regarding the investigation of concerns expressed. It's a total time limit of 15 minutes, and that's not 15 minutes per person, but 15 minutes in total. And at this time, I'd like to ask any concerned citizen to come forward and state their name and address for the record. Please.
Good evening. My name is Jeremy Payne. I live on 848 North 6th Street by the prison. I'm here today to speak about the budget and make some possible recommendations. From speaking to many Bayport citizens, a common perception is that our budget is a mess. We got some serious problems, or we're just barely squeaking by. Well, I'd like to share with you a metaphorical example. Say you're making $100,000 a year and your budget for operating your house is $20,000 a year. You could audit your budget for your house 100 times over, accounting for every penny on your budget report. If you spend $19,000 this year, you'd have a $1,000 surplus. If you spend $21,000 a year, you'd have a $1,000 surplus. Now, say you wanted to spend, a budget deficit. Now, say you wanted to spend $30,000 on your house budget. Would you go knocking on your neighbor's door and say, "Hey, John, I got $20,000 allocated to operate my budget, but I need to spend $30,000. Can I borrow 10 grand?" No, you'd pull from your $100,000 salary. But governments across America, local, city, county, state, and federal, have created a two-tiered accounting structure. The annual operating budget, or general budget, the cost side of operating government for the year, the taxes in and expenditures. But what's left out is the decades of investment wealth and enterprise ventures. So we essentially have two sets of books. And I'll get more into this in a second, but first let me clarify just what our budget is and what it should be. And there are several problems. First of all, perception versus reality. Most people, when they hear of the budget, they think it's the financial condition of the government. This is false. The budget is only a part of the total financial activities of the government. It's a selective overview, and it is not complete. The second problem, even in the items that are part of the budget, the governmental funds, there are surpluses we're not told about. A proper budget is made up of three parts. One, the balance brought forward from the previous year's revenues not spent. Two, current projected revenues, and three, current projected expenditures. So you just add items 1 and 2, and you subtract item number 3. It's just that simple. However, in the government's budget process, they forget about item 1 many times, the money left over from the previous year. Money available and not spent in previous years is not included in the budget. There's a reason this is purposely and conveniently left out of the budget process. In accounting, during the fiscal year, revenues are called revenue in the income and expense statement. However, at the end of the year, everything goes to a balance sheet. When this happens, any unspent revenue is converted to cash and investment, no longer called revenue. The budgets of almost all governments now state that current projected revenues will be matched against current projected expenses. They conveniently left out prior year's revenues not spent in the process. This budget is incomplete, and now that I've pointed out a few of the key problems with it, there are more, by the way, and I'll get into some examples. The City of Bayport, like all governments, also prepares a lesser-known comprehensive annual financial report, the CAFR. This is our budget. The CAFR is prepared under accounting and reporting standards outlined by the Government Accounting Standards Board. It's a little-known report put out by most governments, well, by all governments, but most people don't know about it. This is the true budget. This is an incomplete overview. It is an audited report, and it has 4 parts: governmental funds, proprietary funds, fiduciary funds, and component units. The budget everyone hears about involves primarily just the governmental funds. The other 3 major categories are not included in this budget, and this is, in most cases, where most of the surpluses are located. The surpluses for Bayport, everyone ready for this? Just under $13 million. We have a $13 million surplus. It's $12.9 million as of the 2009, the last CAFR that was put out. And I'll even read the state auditor's exact quote. The assets of the city exceeded its liability at the close of the most recent fiscal year by $34,500,000 net assets. Of this amount, $12,900,000 unrestricted net assets may be used to meet the city's ongoing obligations to citizens and creditors.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Um,
Can you maybe move along to what
Sure,
your concern
sure.
is and what action you'd like to see taken?
So, looking through the budget, some of the key problems, they do state, like, for instance, a surplus in the street reconstruction fund of a $3 million surplus. The fire fund number 200 has a $400,000 surplus. Public Works has just under $1 million surplus. The tax stabilization fund has just under $1 million surplus. But all that together, what they do show in here is less than half of the $12.9 million liquid assets surplus that we do have. Where is that money? It's invested in things like J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, you name it. I met with City Administrator Berg. He showed me the file. I question where that money's invested. I think if a lot of people knew that we even had this money, they would question it too. I think there needs to be some sort of system, first of all, for people to better know how much money there is and where it's invested. And I think what I would like to propose, and I'm not fully up to par with where I wish to be on the logistics of it, but I am proposing a citizens budget review and advisory committee. This committee could...
Mr. Payne, I really need to ask you to maybe, I think we understand...
Well, and what I would like to do is ask that we get this added to a future agenda so that we could start the process. I tried to get this put on the agenda 2 weeks ahead of time so that I wouldn't be taking up our valuable 15 minutes here. But I was told that 2 weeks' notice wasn't enough time.
Well, thank you very much.
So that's why I'm here meeting the board, to let you know that, first of all, we're doing quite well, and perhaps we could be doing better with our money. Perhaps we could be investing in the community rather investing in these global banks.
Thank you.
Perhaps we could be investing in preparedness or savings. Perhaps we could expand this
Sir,
tax stabilization
I'm sorry.
fund.
I understand your concerns. I think that you've articulated them very well, and we're aware
Well,
of
rather
what
than
you're
just
thinking.
cutting me off,
Sir,
do you have any
I'm not
comments
trying to
on
cut
that?
you off. I'm really not. I respect your opinion. I think that you've done a lot of homework. I think that there are many council members here that also are very knowledgeable about this situation, and I think there's probably a lot of reasons why there are savings built up in funds that you're referencing.
Well, I'm not suggesting that we just go blow the money or something.
So, and I fully understand that, but I must move on because we have a really
Sure.
heavy agenda, so I appreciate your comments very
Sure.
much.
Can we get this added to an agenda?
We will take it into consideration and move forward as appropriate.
Well, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address the council?
We have 2 minutes.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Would someone like to make a resolution to adopt agenda items 1 through 9?